Welcome to our special feature, The Victims of Jeffrey Dahmer, Untold Stories. Today we will take a harrowing journey through the lives of 17 individuals, whose hopes and dreams were tragically cut short by one of the most notorious serial killers in American history. Using primary sources and interviews with survivors, our purpose is to humanize these victims and to provide a more profound understanding of the impact of their deaths on their families and the larger community. Our journey begins with Stephen Hicks, Dahmer's first known victim. Stephen was described as a well-liked and hard-working young man, who had recently graduated from high school. He enjoyed music and had dreams of becoming a rock musician. In 1978, these dreams were brutally dashed when he crossed paths with Dahmer, who was then 18 years old. Stephen became Dahmer's first known murder victim and the catalyst for a series of unspeakable crimes. The next chapter in our story brings us to 14-year-old James Dockstader. James had a troubled childhood and had been placed in care. Despite his difficult beginnings, James was a bright and ambitious boy, with a talent for drawing. Tragically, he was lured away from his sheltered existence by Dahmer in 1988, leading to his untimely death. The third piece of our narrative puzzle centers around Richard Guerrero, whom Dahmer met in 1988. Richard was a friendly and affable man, well liked in his neighborhood. He dreamed of becoming a model and often shared his ambition with friends. Little did he know that his dreams would be stolen by Dahmer, who murdered Richard and disposed of his remains in a disturbing ritual. The sequence of our tale moves on to Anthony Sears, one of the later victims of Dahmer. A talented musician, Anthony loved entertaining and had dreams of making a career in the music industry. These hopes were violently quashed by Dahmer, who murdered and dismembered Anthony in the spring of 1990. A deeply disturbing saga. We now delve into the life of Edward Smith. Edward was an African-American male Dahmer encountered at a bus station. Vulnerable and struggling with homelessness, Edward became a target for Dahmer's heinous crimes. His brutal end serves as a stark reminder of the deep tolls that socioeconomic factors can take on individuals' lives. Our chronicle takes us to Ernest Miller, another of Dahmer's victims. A kind-hearted and sociable man, Ernest enjoyed cooking, and his friends often remarked on his culinary skills. His passion for food was tragically undermined by Dahmer, who took Ernest's life in 1991. A poignantly harrowing tale. We now focus on David Thomas, who had been in an accident and was struggling to piece his life back together. David was a gentle soul and was known affectionately as Coco by his friends. Tragically, he was another victim of Dahmer in 1991. Our recount comes full circle as we revisit the first steps of the doomed journey of James Dockstader. Once admired for his artistic abilities and potential, James's story highlights the ripple effect of Dahmer's crimes on the community, a community that is no longer the same. We are transported back to the chilling days when whispers about the mysterious disappearances started surfacing. The news of the victims' last moments and the pain they endured was a jolt to the community, changing it from a peaceful neighborhood to one haunted by fear and grief. Speaking of the crime's aftermath, we turn to the heart-wrenching recount of the victims' families. Their anguish and their search for answers have been relentless, but for many, justice still remains elusive. We cannot comprehend their plight fully, but we can, and must, remember the lives lost. We sadly note that the repercussions of Dahmer's violence went beyond his direct victims. The profound shockwaves were felt on a national scale, rocking the public's confidence and igniting a dialogue about the crucial need for improved social and institutional support systems. We must also acknowledge the individuals who tirelessly worked on these cases, from law enforcement officers to forensic experts. It is largely due to their persistent efforts that the extent of Dahmer's monstrous deeds came to light. Their commitment to justice and truth has been commendable. Over 2 dark and haunting decades, Jeffrey Dahmer carried out his reign of terror. But in sharing these stories, we aim to remember that the lives he took were not mere statistics. They were vibrant individuals with unique dreams and aspirations, each of whom was irreplaceable. Finally, we are reminded that as we grapple with these nightmarish tales of the past, we must learn from them. We live in a world where cruelty knows no bounds, but it is in our hands to ensure that these stories do not repeat themselves. To remember, reflect, and most importantly, act. As we close the curtain on these heartbreaking accounts, the areas once ruled by fear and dread have found a semblance of peace. We must continue to work together, as a community and as a country, to fight against violence and injustice, ensuring that the light of hope never dims. Although this chapter has come to an end, the mission to honor and remember the victims of Jeffrey Dahmer continues. Each story, each moment, and each life prompts us to stand up and champion the cause of justice, humanity, and empathy. Only then can we emerge from this darkness. We invite you to pay homage to these lost lives, to learn about their struggles and aspirations, and to bear witness to their tales. As we close this chapter on the victims of Jeffrey Dahmer, Untold Stories, let us carry forward their legacies, ensuring that their lives are never forgotten. In speaking these names loud and clear, we remember these individuals for who they were, not for how they died. Let us all commit to looking at the past and the present with open eyes and open hearts. And perhaps, we can make the future a little brighter for us all. The enduring impact of these stories is felt not just by the families left behind but by the locality and humanity itself. Let us extend our support, our empathy, our understanding. Together, may we take a stand against hate, prolong our hand towards unity, and bring engulfing peace. As we venture into the future, may we be forever haunted by the tragic legacy of Jeffrey Dahmer, but also fiercely emboldened by the resilience of the human spirit. It is in this inextinguishable flame that we can find hope, healing, and ultimately, the power to transform the tide of history.